Hey guys, it's David with Beagles on Fire. We started the new series yesterday on types of dogs and how we can apply that to our lives. And yesterday we talked about puppies. If you haven't seen that, I'd strongly suggest you go back and look at that. We give different information out on puppies and then how that relates to life. So there's some information in there that relates to the dogs and then information in there that can relate to our lives as well. Today we're going to talk about puppy trainers. So I'm just kind of carrying this thing in a little bit of an order and jump around a little bit, but puppy trainers, you've heard probably the term, somebody was looking for a puppy trainer, or this one's a good puppy trainer. Well, what does that mean, puppy trainer? Well, typically when I think of a puppy trainer, first of all, I want some of the characteristics that we're going to talk about in other dogs. I want something that's broke, and we'll discuss that later. You say broke, you mean poor? I always teased a guy one time and said, "Is that dog broke?" And I said, "He sure is. He don't have a penny to his name." But we know we're talking about something different when we're talking about broke dogs. That's a different day. We'll talk about that. But I want one that's broke. I want one that's got a lot of strong drive. I want one that is true in every way it needs to be. And so I brought two of mine out here. Typically the puppy trainers, I don't always just use an older dog to train my puppies in the training pen. Sometimes I'll use a younger dog that we'll just let it run for a while, but I typically don't try to get one of my front end lead dogs that would always be maybe a little bit faster than what I would want my puppies to be trained with. I want something that's going to be solid and going to move the track along, but not trying to go real fast that the puppies can't keep up with it. So a lot of times what we use typically is an older dog. Now I brought two of my older dogs, and I tell you, to be honest with you, I wish I could freeze their ages back several years back. But the first one I've got here, yesterday we showed you Wildfire's pups, and we're talking about puppies. And this is actually Fire's mama. This is Fire, and older dog. I think Fire's probably 8 or 9, and ran her this morning with some pups out in the wild, and she's totally solid. If you look, her ears are scratched up. And one thing you'll notice about her is you see all the white in her face. Her color has gone from what it used to be. She's getting older, and she's getting down to the last years of her life. But she has left a lot of good dogs for us to have and run. Wildfire's in her prime. And Wildfire, I've got some pups off of Wildfire. One named Josie, and Josie's actually pregnant right now. So I've got some third generation off of this dog here, and her mama Jane was a mighty fine dog, and Jane was a sister to Joe, littermate sister to Joe. For some of you that have followed me and watched for a while, to some of y'all that won't mean anything, I understand. But as you see, the color's gone in the dog, and she's gotten a little older, and she's probably not a dog I would want to take out on a hunt with a bunch of 2 and 4 year olds, but she still has a place. She can train puppies, and she can keep things going. And when I put her in a training pen, I don't have to worry if the rabbits are going to get hunted, because this nose right here is going to be wore out. These ears are all going to be wore out. If you look at her tail, even though it's been bobbed, you see there's no hair on it. That's because she's going to go in there and give you her all. And so this is Fire. I got another dog in here that's very well known by people that have followed me any length of time. This is Georgia. My, what a dog Georgia has been. This dog came out of a dog named Brownie, who came out of a dog named Cricket. Poncho was the daddy to Brownie, and then Buster was bred to Brownie, and that produced Georgia and Little Ann. I brought Georgia out here. Now Georgia was a solid red dog, so once again you can see here she's getting some age to her. She just turned 8 back in April, and the dogs that we've got out of her, for you guys that pay attention to my kennel, I've got several daughters out of Georgia. I thought the world of this dog, still do. It breaks my heart to see her get old like this, but she's starting to turn gray and white. She's actually in heat right now, but she's too old for me to breed. So last year she raised her last litter that she's going to raise for me. But Sweetie Pie is a daughter out of her who is bred now. Savannah, another daughter out of Georgia that has been bred now. And Atlanta, another dog that's bred out of her that's a daughter. Several of you have some Georgia pups. And if you have a Georgia pup, you've got a good one. There's a very consistent cross here out of Georgia. But you say, well, David, you're giving us a little history on these dogs, and I am, and I'm doing it for a purpose. But I just want to tell you, this dog, one of the youngest dogs I ever saw at 14 months old, she would come back and tell on dogs. And that's another type dog we're going to talk about. It's the tell on them dog. We'll explain that later. But this is just a mighty fine hound right here. When you turn her loose from the main kennel, she's going to go right to the ranger to load up. You can run this dog without a collar. Not going to have to worry about a thing. She's totally solid. And this is just a special dog to me. But today we're talking about pup training. That's why I brought them out here, was to show you that. You say, well, where are you going with this pup trainer thing, David? Well, there's two train of thoughts that come to me when I think of pup trainers. You know, those of us that are grandparents, we're getting a little more gray. We're moving into the, not necessarily the final years of our life, but we've definitely moved past halftime. And we're in the third quarter, or maybe even the fourth quarter sometimes of life if it goes as normal. And so what do? Well, grandparents can teach the grandkids a lot of things that sometimes parents can't necessarily teach the kids as easy as grandparents can. You know, having been a parent and now a grandparent, I can say this, that people always say, well, as you get older, your patience may not be tolerating of the noise and that sort of thing that young kids bring. And while that's probably true, you know, you can only take so long of a dose of a bunch of kids being kids, running around the house and raising Cain, and when you're younger, that doesn't necessarily bother you. But in some ways, you've learned more patience as a grandparent than you had when you were a parent. You know, as a parent, you got a lot going on. You're struggling with finances and different things. You're trying to get situated in life and all that. And as a grandparent, usually you've got to a point in life where you're going to get. And you love to see the kids come. And my mom told me something interesting when I had kids that were younger and we'd go visit her. She said, you know what the most beautiful lights at Christmas time are? And I said, no, Mom, what? And she said, those red tail lights when you leave with those kids. Now, she was cutting up and kidding. But what she was saying is that the good thing about being a grandparent is you can have fun with them and then you can send them on back home and somebody else has to raise them. So these dogs are done raising pups, and but they still have a good time going out and actually training pups. Sometimes it's their own pups, grandpups and different things, but they have trained a lot of dogs for me. And it's great to be able to know that I can entrust them with the puppies when they go in a training pen, that I can trust them. When I go out in the wild, that I can trust them, that they're going to do what needs to be done. And they're going to teach those kids, they're going to teach those pups, the started dogs that I'm trying to work on, they're going to teach those the right things. And you know, if you're the right type grandparent, it's great to know for your kids that they can entrust their kids with you. So it's natural sometimes as a parent to want to hold on to your young child right away. I never will forget when between my wife and I, we have 12, 6 on each side kind of. So we're waiting on the next one to throw it on up to 7 to 6. So it's a kind of a competition if they're listening. But anyhow, we absolutely love our grandkids, and we've had them here and we've had a blast with them. You've seen some of the videos, but we noticed that in the beginning, we were ready for those grandbabies to come see us. We were always ready. Can we do this? Can we do that? And the parents were like, they're not quite old enough yet. And then what happens is, as time goes by and those kids kind of get on the parents' nerves a little bit more, it's like, would y'all like to take the kids? And we're like, absolutely. And so things kind of change, and they say that, you know, I've heard a pastor at my granddaughter's dedication service, I heard a pastor say something that was funny. He said when his kids first had the grandbabies, they were like, well, you know, here's their schedule. Now be sure you do this. Now be sure you do that. And he laughed. He said, you know, I wonder who raised them. Like, they forgot that we have raised kids before. This is their first one. but they're going to give us all these instructions. But that's just part of being a concerned parent. That's a natural thing. But he said that was with the first one. He said when the second one come along, it got a little bit easier. By the time the third one come along, the qualifications went from, we don't know if our parents are qualified to watch the kids and all these different rules and lists of things that had to be done, to basically, look, if you're breathing and you won't let the kids get harmed, you can watch our kids. So it was kind of a funny thing that he said there about grandparents and kids. And so I'm relating some of this to grandparents and what we have a role to do, but also in the life of living right. We who are older and experience life, we have a responsibility to teach younger people the right way to do things and set the right example. And you know, when I put my dogs in the training pen, I want the dogs that I put them with to show them the right example. What are you talking about? Well, I want them to go in there and, first of all, not teach them to lay around in the bushes and do nothing. I want them to go out there and teach them, hey, we got to look for something. What are we looking for? The young pups don't have a clue what they're doing in there yet. Even though they've sight chased a few rabbits, they're waiting on somebody to get something going. That's where these pup trainers come in. And you know, sometimes our kids, grandkids, younger people at work, they look at the older generation. Sometimes they look at the older generation, they say, well, what do these old farts know? Or, you know, man, he's an old timer, he don't know nothing. But if you're doing the right thing, you can show them an easier way to do something if they'll listen, but you can show them the right way to live. Hopefully, we've sowed our wild oats if we were ones that wanted to sow it, and we've realized that that's really not what life's all about. By the time we get into the age where we are now, we should know what life's really supposed to be about. Not everybody knows that, but hopefully they will. But I challenge you to be the example you need to be to the younger people that may be watching you, especially your kids and your grandkids if you have grandkids. But if you don't have grandkids, just hang on. Life flies by, and before you know it, you'll be having grandkids because it goes by way too quick. There's no way that I'm supposed to be 56 and have 12 grandkids right now. This just went way too fast. It just seems like it wasn't very long ago. I was the young athletic basketball, baseball, and all that, you know, athletic jock at school. And then all of a sudden now here I am, what people would call an old man, some people would. But I try to stay young at heart. But show people the right example as to what you need to do. And so hopefully the younger people will watch you. And, you know, when we're out here trying to set the right example, it's showing a training by example. I don't need, obviously these dogs can't hand the pups a training manual and say, here you go, learn it on your own. And while we as parents, and if we're in the church, we can say, here, read the Bible. But, you know, nothing wrong with saying read the Bible. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is your kids are going to learn far more from you about what to do right and how to live life than they are by just staring at a Bible and reading it. Not belittling reading the Bible, okay? But I'm saying, remember what I said before. You may be the only Bible some people read. So what exactly are they getting? We need to be the right example of what we need to do and expect others to do. And because of these dogs here doing the right thing in the pen, typically puppy trainers go in there. My starting pen usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks. And just to give you a little information on training pens, I'll give you a little information on that. It has nothing related to how we need to live our life. My training pens are 12 acres, 9 acres, and I have a 47-acre running pen. Some things you need to make sure if you're ever going to have a training pen is you got to have cover. You got to have rabbits, obviously. Now, you can put way too many in there. You don't want it to be where they just find something every tree they look at, bump around, they're going to find one. Because you're going to have them running a rabbit, then they run another rabbit. So there's a kind of a fine line as to how many rabbits you want in there. I don't have a magical number for you. Just you need to have enough that they get interested, but not so many that anybody can go in there and jump on. You need to have a water source. It's good to have some different things, if you can get them, plenty of clover, different things like that for them to eat and stuff like that. But back to life and its examples that we have, I challenge you today, make sure you're setting the right example. Especially, this was geared a lot toward grandparents, I realize. And kids, remember something. Your parents, your kids' grandparents, you'll never know what it means for them to spend time with those kids until you have some grandparents of your grandparents as well. Think back to some things about grandparents, and I'm just going to go back in time for just a minute, and I'm not going to try to make this much longer. But when I grew up, you know, grandparents were two different things. Grandparents were the type that would say, young man, go out there to that tree and get me a switch. You messed up. Now, we don't hear much of that anymore. Nobody wants you spanking their kids. And to be honest with you, I wish I never had to spank a kid again. Hopefully I won't. The other part of being a grandparent that was always fun when I spent time with my grandparents were, they always let you do the things your parents wouldn't let you do. I don't mean the wrong things. I mean, like, you want some cookies right now? You can have cookies. Here, I'll make you some cookies. And they spoiled you rotten. That's the fun part of being a grandparent, is getting a chance to spoil a kid rotten. And so there's nothing wrong with any of that, but always set the right example and have fun with your grandkids if you have some. And if you don't, one day you will. And if you're a kid, I say kid, if you're a parent, okay? I don't like to call people in their 20s and 30s kids. I know y'all don't like to be called kids, but you are compared to some of us that are older. If you're an adult with children, I challenge you to let them spend some time with a grandparent. Allow them to enjoy that. It makes them feel a lot younger than they really are. Let them take the kids fishing. Let them have a blast with them. If they've got rabbit dogs, gear them up with that. They'll have a blast out there. And you will too. I challenge you to do this too. Instead of grabbing a gun and trying to kill every rabbit, take a time and just take a video, take some pictures, because those will mean more to you than anything else one day when that grandparent is no longer around. And you'll have that memory. And it flies by quicker than we think. But what kind of training are you doing and showing to the younger generation? That's the challenge today about being a pup trainer and having pup trainers. And if you're a pup, if you're a younger person, you need to hook up with someone who is life's pup trainer. We all need people we can look up to and follow their example. There's plenty of bad examples out there. Try to find somebody that can be a good influence on your life. It will make your life a whole lot better. And in turn, you make sure that you're a person people can look to that's a good influence on them. Y'all have a great day.